What is up, everybody? Today's video is going to be a little bit different. I'm going to actually be talking about wireless lav mics and a little like modification that you can do if you have a Sennheiser like G3 or G4. And the thing is, they have these whip antennas and sometimes they break. And so you can switch or you can upgrade to an SMA antenna where you can kind of detach it. And so the cool thing about that is you can actually have the antenna move so that it's in the same position as the receiver. So the transmitter, usually it'll be on the talent like this, facing in the vertical direction. And sometimes on your rig or however you have your receiver set up, it's going to be facing in this direction. And so when you have, one antenna going this way and another going this way, you might get like RF dropouts or hits, which sounds like psh, 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 and it kind of messes up the audio. So what you want to do is you want to replace your antenna with an SMA antenna that is adjustable from, horizontal to vertical, while still not affecting your rig setup. So for example, if your rig is set up like this, where your antenna is horizontal, then all you have to do is just move your antenna like that. And so that's what we're gonna be installing today. I'm gonna show you guys how to install that onto your Sennheiser G3 or G4. It's pretty simple. You just kind of have to do a little bit of soldering, but other than that, it's great. So with all that said, let's get started. Hey, be sure to like and subscribe. Thanks. All right, the first thing we're gonna do is remove any batteries. So if your unit has batteries in them, go ahead and take those out. If not, then just skip this step. So then next, what we're going to do is we're going to locate the connecting rod that connects the battery cover to the unit. And you can just take any kind of small screwdriver and punch it out. And then once you do that, go ahead and pull it out on the other side and set the battery cover aside. All right, so now if you have a hot shoe adapter, hot shoe mount, go ahead and remove that from the unit. If you don't, then just skip this step as well. Okay, now we have access to the 4 screws or bolts, and what we're going to do is just remove those with a Torx bit, and I'll go ahead and I'll put that size in the description, so don't worry about that. And once we remove all our bolts, we'll remove the back plate. And we can remove it gently. You don't want to kind of like damage the board. So now we have access to the circuit board, and there's going to be one more bolt that we're going to have to remove. Same size torque bit, so you don't have to change bits or anything like that. And but I would keep this screw separate, just because that's just how I would do it. Okay, so now that we have that screw removed or the bolt removed, we can gently pry apart the circuit board from the front cover, and be careful because the buttons are just kind of held in place, so you don't want to yank too hard and flip the front cover upside down because they'll fall out. Okay, so now you can see where the antenna is soldered to the board. It's like right next to that lower horseshoe. And so what we want to do is just add a little bit of flux to it, to the solder joint, and then we're going to take our soldering iron and we're going to tin our tip on the soldering iron, and then we're just going to give it a quick touch and pull the antenna at the same time, just like that. And that's it. Okay, so this is silver plated copper, and you want to use 20 gauge. I went with silver plated copper because it's just better for radio frequencies and all that kind of stuff. Next, you want to use a pair of milspec wire strippers. You do not want to nick any of the strands in the wire, and so you don't want to cut a wire, one of the strands either. So I highly recommend a pair of milspec strippers, and I'll put a link in the description for you. So you can go and pick those up. So yeah, we're just going to strip our wire on both ends, and don't worry about how much to strip, because we can always cut that down later. So now we'll have one of our SMA pins, and we'll just go ahead and test out that length. And as you can see, it's still a little long. Want to keep it as close to the jacket as possible. Okay, so now we can just cut it down to size now that we've measured it, and we'll flux that end because we're going to tin it and then put it into the SMA pin. So here you want to use some helping hands, like the alligator clips with the helping hands with like a heavy base. Go ahead and tin your soldering iron, and then apply solder from the top and the iron from the bottom, so that the solder just kind of flows to the bottom. And there's a little hole in the pin, so that's how you'll solder it. And now we're gonna test to see if it fits. So it doesn't fit. So just get like a little you know, pointer tool like this, and just enlarge that opening. There's a slit on the pin for kind of like that reason. You know, so you can see the slit right there. So just open it up just a little bit. You don't want to overdo it because you still want it to be tight. And you'll see there it's nice and tight, and it fits onto the antenna well. So now we have our threaded portion of our antenna that's going to mount onto the base of the unit. So what we need to do is shave down 2 out of the 6 sides on our connector here. So what we're going to do is we're going to use a file, and you can use a file, you can use a sander, you can use a Dremel, whatever tool you have works to get, you know, just whatever tool you have that'll get the job done. So here, you know, we'll just grind it down, and once we have both sides ground down really well, next what we'll do is we'll grind down that bottom portion. And if you have an SMA connector that doesn't have this bottom portion, then you can go ahead and skip this step. So here we're just going to do the same thing. We're just going to grind it down all the way until it's gone, just like that. So now I have a countersink bit, and I'm just pretty much getting rid of all of like the sharp metal edges and stuff like that, and also kind of like taking away that sharp edge so that if the wire does rest against it, it won't cut the wire. So now it's very important to wash our SMA connector, because all those metal flakes and stuff like that, you don't want them jumping around on your circuit board. Okay, so now you can see it's nice and clean, and we have a nice smooth edge there so that it won't cut into the wire or anything like that. And so yeah, really make sure that it's clean, and you can let it sit for about 24 hours to air dry. If you have like some kind of compressed air or anything, you can blow out the water, and that'll speed up the drying time. But make sure you let it air dry thoroughly. And so yeah, you can see, just kind of pointing out that it's nice and clean, because you really want to get as much of those metal flakes as possible removed. So now we have our circuit board, and we're going to go ahead and flux both sides with just a tiny bit of flux. Just, you know, we don't want to overdo the flux there. And once again, we're just going to line up our wire on the top and with the display. So that's what I mean by top. And then we'll just apply heat from the bottom and push through just like that, and let it dry. And so there you go. So now you're going to have probably a little wire sticking out. No worries, just go ahead and cut it off with some flat edge wire cutters. Okay, so now we're going to add that bolt back, tighten it down, take a pair of needle nose pliers, and we're going to go ahead and just kind of work with that wire and everything, just to kind of push it down in there, get everything to fit. And this, your application may differ from mine, but the principle will be the same. You know, you'll just kind of play around with the wire to get it to fit. And then once you have it nice and fitted, go ahead and put that backplate back on, but don't put the bolts on just yet. Now what we're going to do is put on that lock washer along with the nut and just kind of tighten everything down. And once we have it hand tightened, then we'll just take an 8mm wrench and we'll just give it a little, just kind of, you know, quarter turn. And then from there, we'll go ahead and put on our SMA antenna and make sure it fits, make sure everything is lined up, looks good. And, you know, mine's screwed all the way down to the bottom, but yours may not. As long as it just goes until it stops, that's what I would recommend. So there, as you can see, we have our antenna mounted, and we can adjust it 90 degrees, you know, so horizontal, vertical. We can also rotate it 360 degrees. So yeah, it's adjustable on X and Y axis. And so let's go ahead and put those bolts back together and tighten down the whole body there. Okay, so now we'll go ahead and put in our connecting rod and get the battery cover back on. And it just pushes right through and just, you know, make sure it's flush on both ends. And that's pretty much it. So then after that, we can go ahead and put in our batteries. And, you know, pretty straightforward here. Just throw the batteries back in, make sure they're going in the right orientation there. And then we'll close it up. And everything looks good. So we'll put our antenna on for the final time, I guess you could say. This will be it. This will be the test run. And so now, yeah, it looks good. Looks good. And this is the antenna where it's uncut, I guess you could say. So technically, we have to remove the antenna one more time, but it does look good. I will admit, it's a really nice looking antenna there, and you know, it just kind of makes I don't know why Sennheiser didn't do this, or at least offer. So yeah, you're going to look for our frequency range, and you're going to find your frequency, and then you're going to line it up to the chart that your antenna supplier manufacturer provides for you. And so here I used a ruler to mark where, or a rafter square, but you know, you can use a ruler, anything, it doesn't matter, just as long as you're accurate with it. And so you're just gonna find your range, and then you're gonna mark it. And I know what you're thinking. Why didn't I just draw the line all the way down? It was pretty late when I made this video. That's my excuse. So once we have our line, once we know where our range is, we can write it down. Now we'll take our antenna and we'll line it up. And here I'm just kind of using the stock antenna as a base, you know, just kind of like to get a rough estimate, just to make sure that I'm in the ballpark. And looks like I am. So now I'll take my antenna, run it up, and then hold everything down right where I want it. And then we'll take our pliers, our wire cutters, and then we'll just go ahead and cut the antenna. And the cool thing about this antenna is it's multi-stranded, so it's more flexible, more durable, which is really cool. And yep, so go ahead and cut that, and then we'll put our little plastic cap on. If you don't like the plastic cap that your antenna supplier supplied you with, you can always use the Sennheiser cap. All right, so they look about the same. That cap is just a little high, but they look the same. So yep, now we can go ahead and put it on for the final time, I believe. And yeah, so we'll go ahead and put it on for the final time, and yeah, it looks good. And now we're gonna go ahead and power on the unit. So we all know how to do this because you know, this is our unit, right? So go ahead and power it on, and you know, go through the list, scan the list, and I skipped all that for you just to save time. And so now, as you can see, once we see where we're at, just to double check, and we're within spec because it's from, you know, 470 on up to like a 5 something. So yeah, but we're within spec, and you want your RF bar to be really low like that. You don't even want it jumping that much. I did another test where it wasn't jumping at all, so make sure that you get that RF signal as low as possible. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're just going to sync it up right here, and this part is pretty straightforward. So we'll get everything nice and synced, and now what I'm going to do for you guys is I'm going to do a test. So I'm going to leave the receiver in the garage, and I'm going to take the transmitter and go throughout the house. So I'm going to go inside the house, I'm going to go upstairs, and I'm going to go in another room, and then in the walk-in closet. And so before I know I would get a lot of dropouts. So this is going to be a test. So here we go. Test. Okay, what I'm gonna do is I'm in the garage, and I'm going to run upstairs and see if we get any hits or any dropouts. So I'm gonna be going through a few rooms, closed doors, and everything like that. So let's test it out. All right, so I'm walking. You might hear like some wire movement, but that's only because I'm just holding the mic and the wire might be dangling. So I'm closing the door. There, one door is closed. And now I am going upstairs, walking upstairs, going upstairs. Hey, Shadow, it's my cat. Keep going upstairs. Now I'm going into another room and turning on the light, closing this door, and walking around, and I'll go into a walk-in closet just to see what happens. Okay, so this is like 4 rooms. All right, now I'm gonna walk back, see if we get any interference now, but hopefully we don't, and we have a clear signal. And going back downstairs, and dodging the cat again on the way down. Why do cats like to stay on stairs? It's like just they're like trying to trap you. All right, so going back into the garage right now. In the garage, coming back. It's raining outside, and ta-da, we're back. So let's test this out, see how it sounds. And yeah, so that's pretty much it. All right. All right, well, thanks for watching, everybody. I hope you enjoyed the video. And go ahead and leave a comment down in the comment section. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say about this video and the upgrade. So until then, see you guys next time.